So this song is, I wrote this when I was living down in Nashville. I used to go to a divey bar down there called Bobby's Idle Hour. It was right on Music Row with a friend of mine, because they used to do open mics. And one time, I went there for the open mic, and this guy got up on stage, and he just started ranting and cursing, and he wouldn't sing. I mean, he had a guitar, but he was just talking about politics and stuff. And he went on, and then he kept going. So finally, the bartender said, you know, somebody get this guy off stage, and they ended up like pulling the plug on it. And everybody was like, "Whoa, what was that about?" But I thought, that gives me an idea for a song. So this is called Ain't No Friend of Mine. When I was a much younger man, I traveled all through these here lands, from up around the New England parts, to down to the land called Mexico starts, and in between there I visited a lot of places. Shook a lot of hands, met a lot of faces. I got pretty close to some things you wouldn't want to go near. I heard some things you probably wouldn't want to hear. But of all the towns I can recollect now, there's one I remember being a little bit different somehow, because there was this man, I don't guess you'd doubt it. He did this thing. I'm going to tell you about it. Well, it was a midsummer's evening, if I remember right. I was hunting up a place where I might stay for the night, and I came on this crossroads about 7:15. Only thing there was a hotel and a tavern. The door was open, there was a candle burning. I mean, it wasn't anything too fancy or nothing, but it looked like a place where you might get a drink, have a spot to sit and some time to think. So I go on in. I'm the only one there, except for the bartender, of course, and two other guys there, and they was gruff old boys. You should have seen them. So I go right on up. I sit down in between them. I say, "Busy night?" No one laughs. The bartender comes over, he's wiping a glass. He says, "I never seen you in here before." I said, "Well, friend, that's because I've never been in here before." He says, "Well, where you from?" I said, "Nowhere special." He says, "Passing through, huh?" "Right on schedule." Well, we talked that way for a little while. Neither one of the other two fellas even cracking a smile. Finally, the bartender tells me I look thirsty. I say, "Thanks, friend. I ain't had a drink since Thursday." He pours me a beer. I thank him for the service. He says, "You all right? You seem a little bit nervous." Well, I guess I must have been moving my eyes back and forth betwixt these two guys. So I said, "What's the story with these two fellas?" Bartender perks up, says, "Well, let me tell you, the man to your right is a righteous man. He's a man I'd trust just about as far as I can. Doesn't say much, of course, that ain't worth saying, but a word from him is a word worth saving. Man to your left's a whole other story, belongs to his very own category. I don't guess there's much that man ain't said against friend or enemy, living or dead." And right when he said that, this bottle comes flying, and the bartender ducks and it breaks behind it. One of them threw it, I couldn't tell which, and the other one called him an old dirty son of a bitch. So then the bartender says, "You want to see something really funny?" I said, "Well, that depends. What'll it cost me?" He says, "Nothing, just a minute of your time." I said, "All right, well, that ought to be just fine." He says, "Ask this fine young handsome gentleman," he's pointing to the guy standing right across from him. He says, "Ask him to tell you about that other fella, one there sitting on the other side of you." So I said, "Why? What for? What'll happen?" He says, "Nothing, probably," and he starts laughing. I said, "I don't get it." He says, "I can see I'm boring you. Just don't try telling me that I didn't warn you." Then the guy walks off somewhere. So for a minute I paused. I just sat there drinking. Nobody's talking. And so I started thinking. I mean, what in the heck could be so hilarious about these two fellas? Come on now, it can't be serious. So I'm drinking, feeling a buzz. I asked the man to my right what his name was. He says, "Well, I'm Jake." I said, "Who's your brother?" He says, "For that, you're going to have to ask my mother." I said, "All right, and where's she?" He says he doesn't know. He points down the bar and says, "My brother might know." I said, "All right, well, this is getting exhausting." So I go right on up to his brother and I practically accost him. I say, "Howdy, friend, put her there. Now, what can you bartender calls out, "No, you can't force it. I know it drinks it down faster than he can pour it, but, well, you just let him finish that there swaller, and you'll see, he will begin to holler." Sure enough, no sooner does he set down his glass than he says, "All right, I'll tell you, but just 'cause you asked, he's a no-good, long-haired, dirty, yellow, double-crossing son of a low-down, lying, cheating, stealing, rank, smelling onion, peeling, lazy, inbred, foul-mouthed, grass-fed, ugly, useless, two-bit, unread, urine-drinking, whistle-blowing, story-telling, feces-throwing, draft-dodging, muck-raking, unamusing, ambulance-chasing, money-grubbing, mother-loving, counterfeiting, good-for-nothing, unmannered, lame, bland, inconsiderate, stupid, selfish, weak, illiterate, helpless, hopeless, heartless, desperate. Hang on a minute now, I ain't done yet. Measly little sneaky, sniveling, treacherous, lecherous, daughter-diddling, cold-blooded, backstabbing, two-faced disgrace, carpet-bagging, he's an unenlightened, foolish, misanthropic, uncreative, oafish, idiotic, brown-nosing, boot-licking, finger-pointing, ass-kissing, needy-greedy, angry, jealous, underhanded, sideways, overzealous, dishonest, careless, gross, disgusting, disgraceful, hateful, intimate, trusting, beer belly, knock-kneed, sorry excuse for a cross-eyed, hook-nosed, snaggly-toothed, pigeon-livered, humpback, chicken-hearted, don't even go getting me started. He's a genuine trash king, lower than bottom dwelling, filling, spoiling, trousers soiling, door-to-door insurance selling, bootlegging, egg-laying, naysaying, no-paying, spit-spraying, belly-aching, wind-breaking, time-wasting, unreliable, ruthless, unrelenting, freeloading, freedom-hating, not to mention